All right, this is math lesson 8.4. We're learning today about volume and unit cubes. Volume is one of the coolest things to learn about with math because it's so easy to understand. So, get out these three colors. We need red, yellow, and blue. Those are primary colors. We're going to be using all three of these basic colors because to find the volume means volume measures the number of unit cubes that will fit inside of a three-dimensional shape. Those three dimensions are length, width, and height. So after you get your journal to look like this, then you can push play back onto the video. So what we need to find is our workbook. We need to look at page 325. So please go find page 325. It has a blue bird at the top right, and it says describe a cube. You'll need to rip that out of your workbook, and you'll also need this paper that says volume examples. We'll be using this as well, and you will need scissors and a glue stick. So go get those two papers, page 325, and the volume examples paper. This should be either at the front table or at the back. You'll need to find this paper. And then push play again on the video. Okay, let's first begin on page 325. So now that we know volume is to try to find the number of unit cubes that will fit inside of a three-dimensional shape. So we're not talking just about a square or a rectangle anymore. We're talking about things like rectangular prisms and cubes and anything like that we can fit something inside of. Okay? So when we talk about cubes and rectangular prisms, we need to understand a few things about them. So let's go ahead and answer these questions. How many faces does a cube have? So a face is something that you would see in the front or on top, on the sides, in back, or on the bottom. So think of a cube like a die. You know, you roll a pair of dice. Think about that. How many faces does a die have? You could roll a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. So there are 6 faces on a cube. How many edges does a cube have? An edge are these straight lines that are going up and down or left and right. So that one's a little bit harder to think about, but I think you could do it. Okay? So let's go ahead and count the edges. So we have the one let's just count the ones in front. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you have to remember that if there's 4 in the front, then there's going to be 4 in the back. Okay? And then if I look at these ones, you have to be really careful. Let's count the ones on top. You wouldn't count this one or the one on top of that because you've already counted it towards the 4. So it would be 4 in front, 4 in back, and then you'd have these two that you haven't counted. You'd have those two on the bottom as well that you haven't counted. And that's it. The rest of them will have been counted. So you have a 4, a 4, a 2, a 2. So what is 6 plus 6? 12. A cube has 12 edges. So true or false? All the edges of a cube are the same length. That would be true. Because it's a cube, all sides are equal. What about the faces? Are they the same size squares? Yes, that is also true. Okay, so now that we know and understand a cube, let's read what a unit cube is. A unit cube is a cube with each edge 1 unit long. The volume of a unit cube is 1 cubic unit. The volume of an object can be measured by filling it with unit cubes without any gaps or overlaps. So it's kind of like taking, if you think about it like a box, like a cereal box or a shoe box, and filling it with these little unit cubes, little tiny dice. And it's filling it to each edge and each side and stacking it as tall as it needs to go till it reaches the top and it fills every space. That is volume. You can't really find the true volume of something if you're not using unit cubes, because you might have extra space or overlapping, but unit cubes with flat surfaces and straight edges is going to be the way you find volume. So it wants us to cut out some nets. A net is one of these things unfolded, but we're really just going to move along to numbers 5, 6, 7, and 8. So here we go. The number of cubes. How many cubes do you think are in this shape? So the easiest way to think about this is to think about it like layers. So we could say that this shape has 1, 2, 3 layers. It's stacked 3 on top of each other. If we were to find out that 1 layer equals a certain number of cubes, then we'd be able to just multiply it by 3. So let's find out for the top layer how many cubes are in that layer. Ready? Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 1 layer is 12 cubes. So how many total cubes would there be? 1 layer is 12 cubes, so 3 layers would equal 36 cubes. So the number of cubes, 36. Okay, and then what we would say for the volume is we just take the number of unit cubes and call it cubic units. So this is 36 cubic units. Or we could say 36 units cubed. Might be good for you to write that as well. To represent cubed, we put a little 3. Remember how when we were doing area to represent squared, we put a little 2? That's because it was 2 dimensions, length and width. But when we're doing area, it's 3 dimensions, length, width, and height. So that's why we put a little 3. It's because there's 3 things we're measuring. Okay, let's try number 7. Let's see if we can cut this one off in layers as well. We could do layers like this. Layers can also be cut up and down or left and right. So let's say that that's 1 layer. Is 4 cubes. So how many layers do you have that look like this? Well, you have this first one. You would have this second one. The third one. Fourth one. And the fifth one. So 5 layers. If in each layer there's 4 cubes, and I have 5 layers, then you did the math, right? The number of cubes is 20. The volume is 20 cubic units, or 20 units cubed. Now, if they were to give us a measurement, like these were inches or meters or centimeters, if they were to give us a measurement for these, then I wouldn't say units, I would give the measurement. Let's say it was inches. I would say 20 cubic inches, or 20 inches cubed. You would replace the word units for whatever measurement that was. Okay? All right. Before we do the stuff on the back page of this, I would love to have us look at that practice page. So will you please find this paper that says volume examples. We have A, B, C, D, E, and F. And what we're going to do really quickly is cut them all apart, but keep the letter with them. So, I'll give you an example. So if I were to cut out the letter A, it might look something like this, where I have all of this stuff plus the letter A with it. Will you quickly please cut out all of these letters? If you take longer than what I take, then you're going to have to pause the video. So I'm just going to quickly cut all of these out. I have A and B. Now I'm looking for the rest of them. While you're cutting these out, it would be really good for you to think about when is a time when we use finding the volume in our real lives. Lots of time when we try to fit something inside of another shape and we're trying to find how much space we have. Anytime when we pack a bag to go on a vacation, you are trying to use the volume of the space. Anytime, even you can have liquid volume as well, like let's say putting water in a fish tank. That's finding the volume as well. Oh, the letter E looks really funny because it's clear out to the side. Okay. If you need more time to cut out all of your shapes and letters, then you need to push pause on the video. I am ready to move on. I need to get all of these to fit on this paper. And I actually don't care if they're not in like a perfect order. But I think I can actually get mine to fit in a perfect order. So I am going to do mine like this. Here's A and B, C and D, E and F. I'm going to trim the letter B one again. Okay. We don't always have to look at these as layers, but that is something that you need to know how to do. Because I know that that is on the test, and it's something that you need to know in general, how to cut a shape into layers. So I'm going to be doing a couple more of those as an example, but then I'm going to also be showing you how we do this using just numbers. Okay? All right. So let's begin with the letter A. It asks us a couple things. It says, what is the number of unit cubes? For letter A. So let's go ahead and talk about this one with layers. And then I'll show you something different. All right, let's talk about this one with layers. All right. So if I were to take my pencil, I could choose to cut off the top layer. It's like taking a knife to a loaf of, to like a I was going to say a loaf of bread, but that's already pre-cut the other way. So think of it like a cake. I'm going to take a knife and I'm going to turn the knife sideways and I'm going to shimmy off the top layer. Okay, so I can shimmy off layers like that, or I can slice down, going straight down, up and down. So I can shimmy off this top layer, or I could cut it into 2 layers. Watch how I would do that. If I just followed this line, there's one, and there's the other one, right? So if I were just to count the number of cubes in this part, I would just multiply it by 2 because there's only one other identical part. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 9 in each layer. So that means that there are 18 unit cubes, and that means my volume, because they didn't give me inches or centimeters or anything like that, it means that my volume is 18 units cubed, or you could say cubic units. Okay? That is one way to do this. But when we come to a shape like letter B, I'll be honest, I don't want to cut off layers. Look at all of those layers. I mean, it wouldn't be terrible to slice down because you can see that there would be layers there, and it wouldn't be terrible to slice across either. But let me show you the coolest way. Will you take your red, and we're going to try and find the length of the shape. How far is the length from left to right? So take your red, come to the bottom left corner, and go until you hit the right corner. That is the length. What is that number? How many cubes are going across there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that means that there are 5 going left and right. Now let's take our yellow and find the width. How far back? From front to back. That's what we're going to call the width. Front to back. So I take yellow, and I go to this front corner, and I go all the way till I hit the back corner. How many cubes are there from front to back? You count this one right here again, because it's in the front. So you count this first gray one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I just double checked it. And I write a 7. Okay, what's our last color? We have red, yellow, and blue. And what is blue for? Height. So now I have to find out how tall my shape is. And there's a lot of ways you could check this. You could go from the front left to the top, or you could come from the back to the top. It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to go from the back to the top. You could do this any way that makes sense to you, as long as you're finding how tall the shape is from bottom to top. You can even do it right here. And you just count those cubes as well. So you begin with the bottom gray and go up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I just put the 5 here. The reason why I'm indicating the numbers is so that this next part is really, really easy. This technically can wait till our next math lesson to teach you this, but I think it's kind of fun to know now. Here's the saying, you ready? Volume is nice, it doesn't bite. Just do length times width times height. So it's 5 times 7 times 5. That's how you would do this. And 5 times 7 is 35. And 35 times 5, I don't know what that is. Is 175. I could also do 5 times 5, and then that would be 25, right? And times by 7. 175 is how many cubes there are. So what would you say the volume is? 175, and this time we're going to say cubic units, just so that you get used to writing it both ways, with a little 3 or all the way out. So there's 2 different ways to find the volume. You can cut a shape into layers. You can cut up and down layers, or you can shimmy off the top and the middle and the bottom. You can do layers, or you can do numbers, length times width times height. And either way, it gives you the correct answer. Okay. On this next one, I actually don't think I would use layers, because it's just, I mean, you could physically just count every single cube. I wouldn't use the numbers because that's going to be pretty easy. So I might do layers on this one. And I might just cut off the top. I might be doing that shimmy layer thing. So that's 1 layer. The next one would be 2. The next one would be 3. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 times 3 is 18. So there's a couple different ways you could do that, right? You're going to say 18 cubic units. Okay, let's try letter D. Okay, what do you want to do here? Should we cut off layers? Do you want to do numbers? I'm going to do numbers here real quick. I think you should too. 1, 2, 3, 4. I like to do it as I draw, and I use my pencil at the same time. And I go back. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is seeming like a cube. 4 by 4. If this is a true cube, then the height will also be 4. Is the height 4? No, the height's only 3. So volume is nice, it doesn't bite. Just do length times width times height. Well, I don't want to do 4 times 4 times 3 because I don't know what 16 times 3 is. But I can do the commutative property and go, well, I know 3 times 4 is 12, and 12 times 4 is 48. So you can use those math skills that we've learned. Let's do units cubed this time. You can use those math skills that we've learned to make the multiplication easier for you. If all you're doing is multiplying 3 numbers, then guess what? You can multiply them in any order that you want. Pretty awesome. Okay, letter E and F. We got this. Don't cover the holes in your journal. E and F. Here is E. I'm going to do the same thing. I love to do the numbers. So let's practice that. 1, 2, 3. Pick up your yellow and go towards the back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I like to double check sometimes when it seems like long. I like to just go back and check. Yep. And then how tall is it? That's pretty easy. It's 2. What's 3 times 6 times 2? I don't know what 18 times 2 is, but I do know that 12 times 3 is 36. So again, that's a way to use your mental math skills to make this easier. So if there are 36 unit cubes, then that means that the volume is 36. Hopefully that's making sense to you as we go along, because it's pretty easy to find the volume when you're dealing with, these are called rectangular prisms. When you're dealing with rectangular prisms, it's really easy to find the volume because you just do length times width times height. Let's do the next one. See if you can do this one all on your own without me talking. Okay, look at your own paper and only check it to see if it's right. Take a look at your answer. Take a look at my answer. Are they the same? Did you get 6 times 2 times 3? Hopefully you did. There are 6 for the length. There were 2 for the width and 3 for the height. So I love finding the volume. I think it's so much fun and so easy. And I'll catch you in the next video to find out what we do next.